everyone, welcome to my channel. Today we're going to discuss Mercury retrograde and what's really happening, especially for this first Mercury retrograde. And you saw already my first introduction before part of my video, were made for your convenience to really understand the bigger picture of the whole entire year. So I'm going to post this introduction as a separate as well. So anytime you want to see really specific days, what's happening with Mercury, you can check this small video I create for you. So what's happening really right now? Let's dive in, really understand, because this is not a typical Mercury retrograde with the sense it's an unusual long one. You know how Mercury jumped from one sign to another, and then suddenly he decided to stay longer in one and do all his retrograde and then stationary and then movement. So the whole team this month and even a little bit next month as well, it's all about energy of Capricorn. And we can really underestimate what is really Capricorn. It's not enough just to think about Capricorn as someone or energetical force who constantly want to achieve, height in the career and status and, to be in charge, so to say. This is a really practical sign of high qualities. And it's really good. And Mercury is here. Mercury can help us in our mind, because Mercury is extremely important planet. Remember, this is the planet which is represent our communication, our mind. It's coming from the tree of reality, or Chokhmah, the wisdom as well. It represents wisdom. And because this month we have, as you can see right now in the chart, we have Venus retrograde. And she's retrograde in Sagittarius. Why we need to know about that? Because really ancients put a lot of emphasis on Mercury. What is really relationship? Relationship, it's all about communication. And many times we mislead and misread what really Mercury represents in our chart. I have to tell you, just by looking at people's chart and see how the Mercury communicate with Venus, I can really tell easily what kind of communicators they are. Forget about Moon. Moon, it's our deep emotions. It's definitely important, but we can't underestimate the Mercury, because Mercury is our communication on a really daily, outside, inside of our immediate circle. And what's important, I will give you a very important tip to understand your partner, to understand your children, to understand your parent. Let's say you're born with Mercury retrograde. So the way many times it's really need to be look at the chart in what house Mercury and what energetical forces represent, what shape, what closing it have. I'm talking about the sign, and as well what vessel it's in, right? So Mercury can be, for example, inside of Pisces, but in 11th house. So it's wearing the closing of Pisces, but it's in a vessel of 11th house of Aquarius. I'm not trying to complicate things for you guys. Opposite, I'm trying to simplify it. We're here to learn astrology. We're not here to just listen and to have a short understanding, limited. I want you to expand your mind, the way how really Mercury wants us to operate. I want you to understand what is really Mercury. Mercury, it's very important. But we need to understand the Mercury first in our natal chart. As soon you really understand your Mercury, you know how to control your Mercury. Otherwise, Mercury completely taking over of your mind. So let me come back to what I initially want to explain to you about your natal chart. Let's say you're born with Mercury retrograde. So for you, the retrograde period, it's less heavy than for people who are born with stationary Mercury. Why? People who are born with stationary Mercury, they're more focused, and they more set with their ways, so to say. People who are born with Mercury retrograde, they have a little bit fogginess, like a little bit foggy. They have sometimes a little bit harder time to remember things, but they're more flexible with the new ideas. Okay, so there's two ways to look at it. Now, what's happened when the people who have a partner, for example, let's say your partner have Mercury retrograde in your stationary, it can create a lot of misunderstandings. It's almost sometimes you feel then you're saying one thing and your partner completely understand different things. And it's, by the way, it's not because your partner don't love you or doesn't want to understand. Your partner just the way how Mercury retrograde people understand things, they sometimes have a little bit extra closing, so to say, a little bit more foggy. And the way how they see things sometimes in multi layers. People with Mercury stationary, they more focus, more set their ways, they more, more specific. So as soon you know that both yourself and your partner need to come together to understand each other, because you cannot change your partner cannot you change your cannot change you. So the best way to go is the main tool for relationship. It's try to so to say sit in the chair of another person. You don't have to become this person, but at least to understand where this person coming from and why certain misunderstandings. It's really important. So just giving you some tips, because this whole month of and whole period of Mercury retrograde, which is going to be in Capricorn, I will tell you right now more specific days as well, which is what you already saw in the video too. We need to really to evaluate and to rethink our communication skills. It's going to help you. I'm going to tell you guys for the 12 houses how it's going to affect all 12 signs. You will see, I will create a completely separate video for each sign. So you will definitely connect, but this is my general video. I want you guys to watch because it's general for everyone. Another thing I want to give general tip for all 12 signs, because the Capricorn represent financial stability and money, the real financial stability coming from when you know how to share. So this is the excellent month to, if you don't do donation, if you have never done donation, I encourage you to run and to find organization where you do your research, do your homework. I'm not telling just go blindly donate, but definitely make an effort to find an organization where you can donate on monthly basis. And because of the months of Capricorn, I recommend the first donation can be done more uncomfortable. What I mean by uncomfortable, to give a little bit more than you think you can. Because what's happened is soon first of all, we start new year. We start new months. It was just Rosh Chodesh months, new months according to the Hebrew calendar. We just enter new months of Aquarius, which is represent 2 letters Tzadik Bet. But in order for us to really to create proper seed, seed is everything. You can change when the ready seeds start to create the shape after seed. If it's the tree, you cannot change the tree anymore. Only when it's in a seed, you can really invest maximum you can. So I do recommend to all of you, in order for you really to enter to new level of blessings and protection, because it says in the Talmud, in the Gemara, in all our old books, in the Zohar, if you study Zohar, then donation can save your life. In Hebrew, it's matzil mi'amavet. It's extremely important. It's really, people who study spirituality, study Kabbalah, for many years, they know the donation, it's extremely important. It's almost you create new relationship and creating the bank account an upper level, and you invest in spirituality in Malchut level, more practical. So the reason you should donate this month a little bit more than usual, it's like we usually donate on holidays a little bit higher because more cosmic energy open. But this month I recommend the most because it's Capricorn. Capricorn represent money, it represents sustenance as well, it represent achievement. And if you're going to donate more than you can, you create so to say more potential miracle for yourself. because as more you do, as more you can receive. But again, you don't do this in order to receive. You do because it's part of your essence. But if you're not there yet, it doesn't matter. You should do your homework and study and find more information about, because there's nothing more powerful. I'm going to repeat myself. There's nothing more powerful by concept of sharing and giving. And when you give more, a little bit than you can, you're going to receive more than you're supposed to. This is how powerful it is. This is my promise to you guys. But again, don't do with expectation. Do with much higher understanding. This is why knowledge is the key. When knowledge become wisdom, this is when it's really become the power machine inside of us. Okay, science. So what's happening right now? On January 13, we have Mercury retrograde, and it's retrograde until February 3rd and 4th. Now, what's really important for us to understand, when it's retrograde on January 13, it's actually staying Capricorn until March, basically until March 4th. And it's really unusual long time, as I mentioned in the beginning of my video. And what's really important as well, it's gonna constantly dance, so to say, around Mars. Mars gonna be there as well. Now, because it's gonna be Mars and it's gonna be in Capricorn, and it's gonna be conjunction on March 2nd with Saturn. So for all 12 signs, guys, anything you're planning to do certain during the retrograde, we need to limit it. Any new beginning, you need to be just more extra cautious. This is something you already heard from many astrologers. But one thing very, very important I want to mention to you guys, there's going to be a moment when it's going to have almost perfect conjunction, Saturn and Mercury, and it's going to be on March 2nd. So anything March 1st, 2nd, 3rd, we're going to until 4th, because on 4th, finally, Mercury going to travel to Aquarius, and it's going to be much more positive. We're going to right away feel completely different energy. But specifically on March 2nd and few days before and few days after, it's going to be stressful energy. Why? Because the Saturn, it's all about responsibility. It's going to provide a lot of pressure. And we're going to feel that we've been thrown to all directions, trying to figure out what to do. And on a more practical level, what's really important, to try to be balanced, as more balanced as possible, and not let your own mind and your own thoughts to mislead you, and as well to overwhelm you. So this is my very, very important tip to all 4 signs as well. Just watch this period of time, beginning of March until March 4th, before the Mercury will travel to Aquarius. Okay, guys, beautiful. So now we're going to start with 12 signs. Dear Sagittarius, for you, Mercury retrograde in the 2nd house, and it's in sign of Capricorn. And let's understand for yourself the initial in your natal chart. What is really Mercury for you, Sagittarius? In your rule, they rule your 7th and your 10th house. So for you, Sagittarius, people sometimes say, Sagittarius have a hard time to restrict the way how they speak. No wonder. We need to understand Sagittarius, on top of it's already 9th house, they like a straight shooters, because Mercury in the 7th house, in the house of relationship, in the house of communication, of the mental stability, it's not easy. It's challenging. So if you know your chart, if you ever did your chart, and your astrologer explained to you how it's important for you to communicate with the Mercury, to understand Mercury, what is to have Mercury in the 7th house, which is, it's crossed from the self house of the 1st house. You remember, 7th house, it's one of the most important houses we have, because the whole world, the whole universe, is the way how we communicate, the way how we express ourselves, and the way how we understood by others. It's not just enough to express yourself. You want to make sure the message you're passing, you've been understood and been received proper way. You understand? It's really important. And what's happened, and it's in the 10th house as well in its rule in your natal chart, 10th house, house of career, house of Capricorn. So I would say this period of time, it's going to be positive for you to do the homework because it's in the second house of the transition of the Capricorn. So the Capricorn, of the Mercury. So Mercury in Capricorn is going to be in your second house for this period of time from January 13 to February 4th. And remember, and then we're going to have a very important before Mercury move finally from Capricorn to Aquarius, which is in March 2nd. Remember, this is going to be a very important period of time. Do not plan anything important. If possible, don't even schedule appointments if you have something important. Don't do on those days. But what's important for you, because this whole period of time, it's going to be in your second house. Second house about money, and it's about self-worth. Now, do not make any financial decision this period of time. To be more cautious, double check if anything you already start as a process, connect to financial decisions, you have to do. There's nothing wrong with that. Just make sure you will double check, because this is exactly where Mercury wants you to do your homework. Anything connected to the second house. What food represents for you? What comfort zone represents for you? What kind of will self-worth you have? Why do you need approval from other people? Because for Sagittarius, many times, no matter how spiritual they are, they still carry what people think about them. We all do, but on different level. Okay, so your second house, this is something you need to work. But by working with your second house, understand where you're coming from. Your Mercury, the way how you challenge and the opportunity was given in your natal chart, it's in the 7th and 10th house. Okay, so make sure you will use this opportunity, because after this period of time, you'll have much better understanding about money, and you're going to learn something new this period of time about financial and the self-worth as well. Okay, I wish you good luck.